Anyone who has read the books by Carlos Castaneda, his interaction with Don Juan, the Yaqui Indian, may have come across the part where he talks about the need for a petty tyrant, a small tyrant in everybody's life. Fortunately, life is very kind to us in that way. It delivers us multiple petty tyrants. It may be your work situation, it may be your partner, if you're living with someone. It might be any number of things. It might be a car that you have that is ready to be scrapped, but you keep running it because you can't afford another one and it's always breaking down. That would be your petty tyrant. So petty being small tyrant. We don't want a large tyrant. We don't want to end up in the gulag. We don't want to end up being a slave to some awful person. But we do need things in our lives that cause us some difficulties. Now, there's a reason why we need this. The main reason is because we should develop the ability to create a little bit of separation within us between our emotional response to a situation and our awareness of it, our awareness of that emotion. Generally speaking, people have no separation. When they're angry, they're just angry. When they're happy, they're just happy. There's no separation between that and some observer within them that can look on those things. So we need the petty tyrant to effectively stimulate us, to piss us off on a fairly regular basis, so that we can gain some separation between that emotion and having an observer within us observing it. Observing it doesn't mean you try and change it. If you're pissed off, you're pissed off. You just observe it, you effectively put your attention on it, you feel it, and you try and understand it, which is a different thing, but understanding and observation are the two crucial things that we can do to, in the end, what is the purpose of all this? Well, the end of it is to basically achieve some level of inner peace and contentment, which sounds like it's not very much, but of course it's a great deal because most of us don't have it. I was inspired to produce this particular podcast because I was speaking to someone just a few days ago who is practicing, and 3 or 4 months ago he was a fairly angry and slightly depressed person. He wasn't suicidally depressed or anything, but he wasn't a very happy person. And I spoke to him a few days ago and said, how's your week been? And he said, well, nothing really has happened. He said, I'm not getting these strong emotions anymore. Now that's sort of good and bad news. It's good news in that obviously his observations and his understanding are diminishing the power of these emotions that once plagued him. But it's a bad thing because he needs more events in his life that are going to piss him off, or maybe make him a little bit unhappy. He also needs events, and we all do, that make us overwhelmingly happy and joyful, because actually in this thing with the emotions there is no difference between being happy or unhappy. We're all pleasure-seeking creatures, but as Spinoza says, both pleasure and pain, most of them anyway, are passive states. Something happens, you win the lottery, you're happy. You've done nothing to bring about that happiness. It's just an accident. And similarly, you drive down the road and you smash into another vehicle and you're truly pissed off. And again, you've done nothing, you're just pissed off. So we need this petty tyrant if we're going to have the material to develop this separation between what happens in our life and our ability to observe it impartially and without trying to change it. So how do we get the petty tyrant? Well, as I said at the beginning, fortunately life supplies most of us with a petty tyrant by default. And your petty tyrant may be your boss at work. Maybe your boss is on your back. Well, there's good material there to feel that irritation within yourself when your boss is maybe asking for something that isn't reasonable. And to be able to accept it as it is, and to try and understand why you're getting pissed off. And similarly, it might be your partner in your relationship. I was in a relationship for many years where I had a partner that was actually fairly demanding, and that was my petty tyrant, and I used it. I was aware of this quite a long time ago. I used it, and I'm grateful for it because I had so much material there to work with. So if you haven't got a petty tyrant, then you need to get one. If your life is too comfortable, then you have no material to work with. And if you have no material to work with, then you will never be able to develop this slight separation between what's happening within you and your consciousness of it. Because if you're going to be moving towards some state of peace and contentment within yourself, then, as I once read, the Buddha can sleep in the graveyard at night and not be disturbed. So all the demons and the ghosts and the ghouls and the monsters don't disturb him. Clearly that's a metaphor for all the emotions that arise within you. If you feel incredibly angry, then you don't try and get rid of the anger, you just sit with it. And for me sometimes now, if I get into a state, so a few days ago I learned that my internet connection is going to be severely degraded for a while, and for about an hour I was fairly angry and I was very disappointed, and I sat with it, and it lasted for an hour, then it went, and I was kind of a bit I was a bit upset that there wasn't more meat there to chew on. So, get yourself a petty tyrant if you haven't got one. If you have got one, make good use of it, because as someone once said to me, life showers us with gifts all the time and we never see them. The problem for us is we think gifts mean lots of money, attractive partner maybe, big car. Those are not the gifts. The gifts are the things that piss you off.